So what we have seen was, the linearity property, which stated that, first of all, are you able to see the screen now?
Yes.
Okay. So in the linearity property, what we saw was, like, if we have a Fourier transform of x1t here, like if you take a Fourier transform of x1t, which is x1 omega, and if you take the Fourier transform of x2t, that is x2 omega, and then if you take the linear combination of these input signals, then the corresponding Fourier transforms will also be the linear combination of their individual Fourier transform. So this was linearity property. Uh, um, that is proved here. So now the next property that I will discuss is the time shifting property. So in time shifting property, what happens is, if you have xt, and if you take the Fourier transform of this xt, it is x omega. See, the directional arrow this side and this side means, you can take inverse also. So that's why I have kept these two arrows on both the sides. So if you shift by an amount of t minus by an amount of tau in time domain, then the corresponding Fourier transform will be actually given by this. So this actually is, the Fourier transform coefficients will be, will remain the same, but it will change by a factor of e comma minus j omega tau. So this is the phase factor that actually is added in the Fourier transform coefficients. So now if you want to prove this, then what you can do is, you take the Fourier transform of x of t minus tau. So you already know that the Fourier transform of xt is minus infinity to infinity xt e to the power minus j omega t dt. So this is the Fourier transform which you already know, but for t minus tau it will be, here tau will be there. So once you have this, then you can take the substitution by putting lambda is equal to t minus tau. So if you take this substitution of lambda is equal to t minus tau, from here you take d lambda equal to d tau, d lambda equal to dt. And now what you can do is you can substitute these variable substitution in the original integral, and what you will get is minus infinity to infinity x of lambda, and then what you will have is e minus j omega lambda plus tau, and then you will have here is d lambda. So once you have this, then you can, take the take the take the exponential out, which is this, and integration is again on this lambda variable. So you'll have this, and this, is like, it's simply the Fourier transform of x. So you can write it as a j omega tau x omega. So here you can see, if you shift the time domain signal by an amount of tau, the corresponding Fourier coefficients, the magnitude of that will remain the same, but as far as the complex number is concerned, it is actually changed by a factor of e to the power minus j omega tau. So this is time shifting property in case of Fourier transforms. The next property that we have is frequency shifting property. So in frequency shifting property, what it says is that if you have a input signal xt, then the corresponding Fourier transform you already know is x omega. Then if you shift the frequency by an amount of omega naught in the frequency domain, then the corresponding change in the time domain will be that the input signal xt will be multiplied by e to the power j omega naught t. So whatever frequency shift that you do in the frequency domain, that is omega naught, you are shifting it by, then the corresponding input signal will actually be multiplied by the exponential, which is e to the power j omega naught t, where omega naught is the same shift which you have applied here. So if you want to prove this, then what you can do is, it's very easy. So you take the Fourier transform of x of t e to the power j omega naught t. So if you take the Fourier transform of this, then it is nothing but x of t e to the power j omega naught t, and then we have e to the power minus j omega t dt. So this is the signal, and this is the complete definition of the Fourier transform. So once you have this, then you can take the exponential term common, and what you will get here is omega minus omega naught t dt. So this is basically, if you observe this carefully, it is Fourier transform of the signal x evaluated at omega minus omega naught, because you have this factor here. So at that same frequency you are evaluating the Fourier transform, so it will be x of omega minus omega naught. So this proves that if you shift the components of omega, if you shift the spectral components which are present at omega by an amount of omega naught, then the corresponding signal will change by a factor of e to the power j omega naught t in time domain. The next property that we have here is the modulation property. In this modulation property, what we have is x of t is basically nothing but you are taking the Fourier transform of it, which is x of omega. Then if you multiply x of t by cos omega t or omega naught t, then the corresponding Fourier transform of this will be x of omega minus omega naught plus x of omega plus omega naught. So what it says is, if you multiply the signal xt by a cosine function, then the spectrum actually, the original spectrum, which is x omega, it will be, it will be in it will be in, the multiple copies of that will be created. The first copy will be at omega minus omega naught, and the second copy will be at omega plus omega naught, and then you have an average of that. So this happens when you have, when you multiply xt with cosine omega naught t. And if you multiply xt with the sine omega naught t, then what you have is 1 by 2 x of omega minus omega naught e to the power minus j pi by 2 plus x of omega minus omega naught omega plus omega naught e to the power plus j pi by 2 times with j pi by 2. So what is happening in case of sine omega t is there is an additional phase shift by this factor of e to the power j pi by 2 and e to the power minus j pi by 2 and plus j pi by 2. So this property, if you can recall, I don't know whether you have gone through the course of communication system or not, but somewhere or the other it's like, you are doing a modulation where you have a signal xt and you multiply it by cos of omega naught t, and in case of signal communication theory, if you have studied, then it is somewhere or the other doing a sort of amplitude modulation in time domain here, and the corresponding spectrum in the frequency domain will be like this, which is shown over here. As I don't know whether you have gone through that course or not, but this is a practical, amplitude modulation is a practical example of this particular, property. So if you want to prove this thing, then what you can do is you can take something like this. You can use x of t cos of omega naught t, which is basically nothing but 1 by 2 x of t e to the power j omega naught t plus 1 by 2 x of t e to the power minus j omega naught t. So this is just, you are replacing cos omega t by its exponential representation. And you know already that we have evaluated this factor and this factor separately. As you can see over here, we have, you know that, if this is the factor that you have in the time domain, then the corresponding spectrum will be shifted by that same amount. So if it is a plus here, then you will have a minus sign in this side, and the spectrum will be shifted by a factor of omega naught. So same thing will happen here. That is, if this is there, then the spectrum is shifted by omega naught, and if the spectrum is minus omega naught, then it will be plus here. So this is basically very easy to prove when you already know this particular property, which is the frequency shifting property. So using frequency shifting property, actually we proved the modulation property, which is here. We used that particular property here to understand how this particular thing changed to this. So I'll give you 1 minute or 2 minutes to let me know whether you are able to solve this particular thing or not, like x of t sine omega naught t, and let me know what will be the answer once you have so how will you do that actually?
Hello, sir.
Yes.
It will be 1 by 2 x of omega minus omega naught minus x of omega plus omega naught.
So acha, okay, and how about the additional phase factor that I was talking about?
Sir, uh, I will calculate.
Yeah. Okay, so what happens is, in this particular thing, the sine omega t you already know is basically represented as e to the power j omega naught t plus e to not plus minus e to the power j omega naught t minus divided by 2j. So if you use this particular thing for sine, if you use this particular thing, then you know that your signal will be x of t e to the power j omega naught t by 2j minus 1 by 2j x of t e to the power minus j omega naught t. So you have this thing already now with your in your hand. The only thing that you have to tackle now is this factor j. So 1 by j here can be represented as e to the power minus j pi by 2, and minus 1 by j can be represented as e to the power j pi by 2. So once you substitute these factors into this particular thing, you will get the answer with what we were saying, like this particular factor will be incorporated in the in this particular thing, x of omega minus omega naught. You will have minus j pi by 2, and for x omega plus omega naught you will have plus j pi by 2. So this is very simple, just the expression of sine omega t, you should know that. The next property that we have is time and frequency scaling. So in this particular case, what happens is if you have a signal xt, and if you take the Fourier transform of xt, it is x of omega, and if you scale the time by a factor of a, then what happens is the corresponding Fourier transform will be scaled by a factor of x of omega by a. So I'll give you few minutes to solve this particular expression, because this one is actually simple, and let me know if you are able to solve it, and then we will discuss this property and we will prove it that how we got this.
Sir,
You got the answer?
yes, sir.
So can you tell me, like uh, which
So
type of cases?
we just need to substitute AT by some variable P, and then we can
Okay,
take
so can you tell me why this is coming here?
uh, because when we substitute AT by P,
Mm-hmm.
then we get dP by A for dt,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean modulus is just for representing the scale. I mean, just the whole value, and if we open it, we'll get a negative or a positive depending on the value of a. So,
Right. Okay, so yeah, that is okay. But have you derived for both the things, like for plus and minus, and showed that yeah, so incorporating modulus will actually you have to tackle both the derivations, like for greater than and less than, and then you will observe that the factor of this particular thing is changing by plus a or minus a, so that's why we take modulus of a. That is
okay,
that is the thing.
I've not done it separately.
Okay.
But
So okay, so Let me show you this derivation. It's very simple. It's not like, not that tough. So what you do is you take a Fourier transform of basically x of at, which is nothing but you take this integral from minus infinity to infinity x of at e to the power minus j omega t dt. So here if you substitute at as lambda, then you know that t is lambda by a, and then the corresponding dt will be d lambda by a. Then once you have this variable substitution, you can substitute it into the integral. And what you see, so now what we will do is from here we actually take the two cases, like for example when a is greater than 0. So in this case of a greater than 0, you all agree that if your t tends to plus minus infinity, then the corresponding limits of lambda will also tend to plus minus infinity because your a is greater than 0. So the range of limits will be the same. So in this situation, you can write 1 by a integration minus infinity to infinity x of lambda e to the power minus j omega lambda by a, and then you have this d lambda. So once you have this substitution, you know that the answer will be actually evaluation of the frequency, evaluation of Fourier transform at omega by a, because you have this factor of omega by a here in the exponential. So on that basis, we say that the Fourier transform is evaluated at this frequency, which is omega by a. But this is for first case. But in the second case, what happens is if your a is less than 0, in this situation, if your t tends to plus minus infinity, your ranges of t is basically running from plus minus infinity, then the corresponding limits of lambda will be minus plus infinity. So it will be opposite, because you know that this is the factor where the t and lambda are related to each other, and a is negative in this situation. So because of that, you have a flip in the integral, a flip in the integration sign. So what you will have is 1 by a, and then you have infinity minus infinity, and then you have x of lambda e to the power minus j omega lambda by a d lambda. So now once you have this, you can change the sign of the integrals by taking plus minus like this and taking minus outside. So once you have this minus integral, that is for a less than 0. So to incorporate both the functionalities of plus 1 by a and minus 1 by a, what we have done is we have taken the modulus of that. So based on that, you can have you have both the integrals incorporated. So this is when we are considering both the cases, that is a greater than 0 and a less than 0. That's why your modulus comes here. So what it says is the time. This is a very important property also, and it will I will show you the we have already worked on this example also. So what it says is that if you have a signal xt, then the corresponding Fourier coefficients are at location omega, and the frequency transform is x of omega. Fourier transform is x of omega. So now if you scale it by a factor of a, then what happens is the frequencies are also scaled by the same factor, but in the reverse direction. So here if it is compression, then here it will be expansion, and if it is expansion here, then it will be compression this side. So you can observe from this property that if you scale by at on the time axis, the corresponding scale in the frequency axis is 1 by a. And we have seen this thing during our course of study here, that if you observe this property actually is reflected here, where you are this is, if let us say, your original signal and the corresponding Fourier transform. So if you scale it by a factor of a here and you compress the signal, then you can see the corresponding frequency components are expanded. But if you expand the signal here in the time domain, then the corresponding Fourier spectrum will be compressed. You can see it compresses like this. Whereas in the other case, when you compress the time signal, then the Fourier transform becomes expanded. So what that day when I was giving you this example, which is actually a direct implication of what this property is, which is actually the property which we call as time and frequency scaling property. So this the phenomena that you were observing in the last example is directly based on this interpretation of this particular property. Now another property that we have is a differentiation in time domain. So what it says is, if your signal xt is there, and if you take the Fourier transform of this, that is will be x of omega. If you take the Fourier transform of this, then now if you differentiate the signal, if you take nth differentiation of this signal x of t, then what happens is, if you take the Fourier transform of this particular signal, it will be j omega n x of omega. So this is basically the differentiation property, where if you are taking the nth differentiation of the input signal xt, the corresponding frequency counterpart of that will be that your spectrum x of omega will be multiplied by the factor of j omega to the power n, where n is the same power with which you are differentiating the time domain signal with. So if you want to prove this property, that is also very simple. Here if you do this, then you know d by dt of xt, if you take the Fourier transform of that, then what happens is it is d by dt of the Fourier, you take the inverse Fourier transform of xt of the signal, which is this. So what you are doing is you are taking the inverse Fourier transform, because anyhow this will give you the result xt out. This is actually the xt, because you are taking inverse Fourier transform of x of omega. And now what you can do is you can actually swap the integration and the differentiation terms. So what you can do is you can do like this: 1 over 2 pi, then minus infinity to infinity. You can bring in the derivative inside, and then when you brought this inside, what happens is then you are actually taking the derivative here, and this will give you 1 over 2 pi minus infinity to infinity. Then you have x of omega, then you have j omega e to the power j omega t, and then you have d omega. So as you can see now, the expression becomes 1 over 2 pi, then you take minus infinity to infinity, then you have x of omega j omega, and then you have e to the power j omega t d omega. So what is this actually is, it's basically a inverse Fourier transform of j omega x of omega. So if you take this factor and this factor is there, so if you take the inverse Fourier transform of this, is basically this expression, and by taking the inverse Fourier transform, you are actually getting d by dt of xt. So this shows that if you take the first derivative, then the factor is j omega here, and if you take the nth derivative, that will give you a factor of j omega to the power n here. So it's as simple as that, because somewhere or the other you are taking the derivative with respect to t, and the derivative of with respect to t of the exponential function will actually multiply this whole expression again and again by a factor of j omega, and the multiplication depends upon how many times you are taking the derivative here on the time domain signal. So if you keep on repeating this derivative, let us say if you have taken the two derivatives of that, then what will happen is your j omega will be multiplied by j omega 2. It's very simple, you just take the derivative again for this expression. So if you take the derivative again for this expression here, then you can see easily that you can move down the factor inside, and then you take the d by dt of e to the power j omega t, and then d omega. So again this factor will come out, and it will become x of omega j omega square, and then you will have e to omega t d omega 1 over 2 pi minus infinity to infinity. So this factor is again if you take the Fourier inverse transform of this, then you will get the then that corresponds to d square by dt square of xt. Similarly, if you repeat it by n times, it becomes n here. So this shows that if you take the derivative of the signal nth times, then the corresponding Fourier spectrum will be multiplied by j omega to the power of n. So this was differentiation in the time domain. So if you do the differentiation in, let us say, frequency domain, what it will be then? Then you have the signal xt, the corresponding frequency spectrum is x of omega. Then if you do a differentiation here in the frequency domain, then the corresponding time domain signal will become x of t, then you have minus jt to the power of n. So this happens when you have a differentiation in the frequency spectrum. The corresponding time signal will become this. So again, this is also easy to prove. So what you have is, the Fourier spectrum is given by, Fourier transform is given by minus infinity x of t e to the power minus j omega t dt. And now if you take the derivative of this with respect to omega, then what you have is d by d omega of minus infinity to infinity x of t e to the power minus j omega t dt. And then you can, flip the integrals inside. So what you have is minus infinity to infinity d by d omega x of t e to the power minus j omega t dt. And now you have to take the derivative with respect to omega here. So if you take the derivative with respect to omega, then it is e to the power minus xt into minus jt. It is similar to what we had done in the earlier derivation. The only difference is right now we have minus jt factor here, and then you have this. So now you know that this is the this particular thing is basically nothing but the Fourier transform of x of t e to the x of t minus jt. So if you take the Fourier transform of this signal, then the corresponding frequency spectrum is that taken, will be the derivative d by d omega of x of omega. And you can prove yourself that if you again take the derivative of this spectrum here, that is taking the d by d omega again for this signal. If you take the d by d omega again for this signal, then you will have a factor of 2 here, and this factor 2 corresponds to the second derivative. And if you continue to do that, you will get this expression where we have seen that if you take the derivative, nth derivative of the spectrum, you will get the nth multiplication of the factor minus jt to the original signal xt. So this is basically the differentiation property in frequency domain. So the next property, which is very important property as far as the practical aspects, or the importance of this Fourier transform is, because Fourier transform is somewhere or the other has an importance based because of this property, which is convolution property. So what convolution property says is that if you have x1t, the corresponding Fourier transform of that is x1 omega, and if you have x2t and the corresponding Fourier transform of that is x2 omega, then if you convolve in time domain, if you convolve the two signals in time domain, and then if you take the Fourier transform of that, that will be equivalent to what you are doing is multiplication in the frequency domain. So as you all know that the convolution operation is a bit difficult, whereas the multiplication operation is very easy to do. So what happens is the most of the researchers, if they are doing some practical or maybe the scientists, if they are doing some practical application, so what they do is, if these signals are very complex, so what they do is they actually transform it into Fourier spectrum first, and what they do is now they will multiply these Fourier spectrums together, and then once they have this, then they take the inverse Fourier transform of that, and they know that if they will take the inverse Fourier transform of this particular spectrum, they will get the convolution in the time domain. So instead of doing all that time flipping, shifting and multiplication in the time domain, the whole operation, which is very complex in time domain, is actually transferred into the frequency spectrum, where they have multiplied it, which is a easy operation, and then they went back to see what is the corresponding time signal in the corresponding signal in the time domain. So this is very important property, and based on this property only, the Fourier transform has an important role to be played in most of the engineering applications. So if you look for any of the engineering application which uses Fourier transform, the main reason for that is this particular property. Okay, and the last property that we have in this particular case is the multiplication property. So in multiplication properties, what happens is, if you have x1t, and then if you take x1 omega as the corresponding Fourier spectrum, and same for x2t, then what happens is, if you multiply the two, actually, if you multiply the two signals in the time domain, then what happens is, surprisingly, in the Fourier spectrum, it becomes a convolution. In the frequency spectrum, actually, it becomes a convolution, and it is scaled by a factor of 1 by 2 pi. So this is very important. That is, if you multiply in time domain, you will get the corresponding convolution operation in the frequency domain. And the other way around is that if you convolve in the time domain, the corresponding frequency coefficients will be multiplied in frequency domain. So the proof of this is very simple. It's just, you have to substitute the integrations and flipping of the signs and orders. So if you still have any problem in deriving this, you let me know. I will do it in the next class. But these are the two properties which we have in discrete time in case of continuous time Fourier transform. And an important thing is, whatever you do, why we are actually using these Fourier transforms is the main property, this convolution property. Because of this is the main thing. So this finishes off with the concept and the chapter on Fourier series and Fourier transform in case of continuous time signals. From the next time, what we will do is, we will actually discuss the same thing in case of discrete time. So in case of discrete time, it will be discrete time Fourier series, and the corresponding non-periodic signal will become discrete time Fourier transform. So we will repeat this same story again for discrete time signals, but as I have done in details in the case of continuous time, I will not go into the details of the derivation in case of the discrete time, but I will present you with the concepts and the main important differences what are there in between the continuous and discrete time settings.